Hi everybody, thanks for joining today. It's Matthew Cheung here. I'm CEO of ipushpull. So we're here today to talk about the world's most popular business application. It's been around for 35 odd years. It's got hundreds of millions of users, and hopefully we can talk about things that can help you learn about how you can improve client experience, how you can be fast to market when launching new products, and then how looking at Excel can actually serve as an entry point into this omni-channel delivery, which then acts as an on-ramp into chats and APIs and lots more. So we're delighted today to be joined by Brad McNee, who's a product manager for TP ICAP, who's also responsible for the world's largest rates broking desks and platforms. And as you probably know, TP ICAP is an interdealer broker, so they're delivering their data to banks and other institutions. And also Julien Dugat, he looks after fixed income, credit, and FX for NatWest markets, and managing products for cross-product sales, and covering one of the UK's leading rates desks. And NatWest Markets is the investment banking arm of the NatWest Group, and they cover corporates and institutions. So they'll be distributing their prices and quotes out to the buy side, while also receiving quotes from brokers like ICAP. And there's myself, Matthew Cheung. I'm CEO of ipushpull. We're a real-time data sharing and workflow automation platform. So we deliver the right data at the right time to the right place. Out of the 20 or so integrations that we have, our Excel add-in still remains one of the most widely used applications and is used by over 70 financial institutions for sharing unstructured and also structured data across pre and post-trade workflows. So let's dive in. In terms of what we're going to talk about today, so first we're going to talk about why Excel, then move on to how NatWest and TP ICAP are delivering live data. Then we'll talk about Excel and how that crosses over into chat, and then this omni-channel data delivery and what that actually means and how it can provide a better client experience. So let's kick off. Julien, Brad, thanks a lot for joining us today. So Julien, to start, could you talk us through why you think offering your data in Excel is important?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me. So, I guess for us, this is really about, we've recently expanded the number of clients that we cover in the commercial and institutional franchise. So we really want to be offering flexibility to our clients. So whatever way they want to use to connect to us, we want to be there, basically. So Excel is obviously one of these channels. Depending on the asset class, our offering is quite diverse. So in FX, we'll tend to offer fixed APIs, and we've got a lot of clients who are actually quite happy to code to our fixed API. So in the FX space, we'll be using ipushpull and Excel to distribute things like the less structured axes. In the rate space, we use ipushpull to deliver our axes as well, or live axes. Again, this is just one of many channels that we use for this type of data. What is quite important to a lot of our clients is the ability to access our data with very little work, as in like a no-install solution. So the ability to do this either through web or Excel is actually quite valuable for them, because they can really quickly just switch on the stream and the data is coming into their Excel spreadsheets. And obviously the type of people we interface with as well. So on portfolio managers, people on the execution desk, everybody will have Excel running on their desktop, and we want to actually load some of our data into Excel to actually do some data manipulation, charting, these type of things.
And why do you think it's so ubiquitous across every desktop that we see in the financial markets?
Why is Excel so ubiquitous? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's definitely a place for Excel. I mean, people have been using it for everything. There's a lot of VB code obviously being written So a lot of it will be legacy, but there's definitely a place for Excel as well, just for charting and some sort of data slicing and dicing. But yeah, a lot of people also use it as a pricing engine or way to actually a bridge to other systems as well. So some of our clients use it to go and sort of collect data, do a bit of data formatting, data manipulation, and then load the data into the final system, like another management system, for instance.
Cool, thanks, Julien. And Brad, same question to you. Can you talk to me why you think offering TP ICAP's data in Excel is important?
Yeah, sure. And likewise, thanks for having me here. So from a usability perspective, Excel has kind of remained a bit of a constant in anyone's desktop over, well, definitely the 25 plus years that I've been working. And indeed, the way in which you're able to expand upon its offering, whether that's from the sense of formulas to VBA to charting tools, as Julien has mentioned, you can really use it as a really flexible way of pulling data in and manipulating it, such that you can then also get actionable events from it. From an ICAP perspective, really getting data into Excel is similar actually to what Julien's been saying, is in some ways the client's preference at first point of contact, so that they don't have to go through a large or even a small upscale or enterprise-wide technology solution to be able to get their data onto their front end. They can install an add-in and then run a formula to be able to bring it in. And it is just that ease of entry, and indeed then the flexibility when the data is in your sheet, that helps you to do things like prototyping. And really there are now more tools that are being used and more languages that are being used by traders on their desktop, but almost the lowest common denominator is formulas within Excel, and then the next level, which is VBA.
And at what level would you see this tactical, easy to use application actually then turn into a strategic application?
I think that goes to the point of prototyping. See, you can prototype within there, and then you can very easily show someone how you have yourself built and designed it, so that it can be handed over to a technology function that can support it more widely and spread it across your organization. Indeed, you can even spread functions within Excel across your organization as well. So, but it's that first stepping stone. And so when you have an add-in to be able to bring the data into Excel, you've begun that journey. And really that's the key to us. You might not need a second step on the journey. You might just be serving up the data to a single person or a few persons that are able to share it, and not need an enterprise-wide solution for it. So really it depends upon the data, depends upon the clients, and how much they want to scale the data. But in terms of how we, from a rates perspective, use Excel, really it's an output for our API, and the client has the choice then for on their side how they would want to be using that API.
Great. Well, we'll dive a little bit more into that in a second. But in terms of the audience that's listening today, let's just do a quick poll to understand if Excel is actually already part of their digital offering. So do you or do you have plans to distribute your live data to any of these digital channels? So Excel, chat, APIs, fix, all of the above, or anything else? If you're listening to this and you are perhaps a client of one of these services, what channels would you like to receive it in as well? So if you want to respond to that, it should pop up in your screen. And then Steve, if you tell us when we've got enough results and we can, do you want to just cover them?
Yeah, sure. So we're getting a pretty strong reaction to all of the above. Excel obviously is popular, not surprisingly, and then probably all of the above is probably the next most popular.
Fantastic. Well, we've got the right audience then. Thanks for replying to that poll. So moving on, let's kind of go under the hood a little bit to exactly what Julien and Brad are doing with how they're distributing data. Firstly, Julien, can you tell us like what type of prices and data are you generating, and then why are you then using Excel for that particular distribution method? Like when we were talking earlier, you mentioned actually some of it depends on the client, the technical ability of the client, actually the maturity of the market that they're in, because it might not be that electronified. There's a few different angles and variables. So firstly, what prices and data are you generating? And then why are you choosing to distribute those through Excel?
Yeah, so I think there's probably two main categories, I guess. So one is some of the data that we are distributing through this channel is mostly because this is a type of data that is not well supported electronically. So again, as an example, if you look at axes in the fixed income space, so for cash bonds, so this is a really electronic item. So every single platform, so multi-dollar platforms or order management system, we basically support receiving this through a fixed message. But in FX, it's quite different. So axes are way less of a commodity, I guess, and it's much less structured. So we actually internally we use Excel and ipushpull basically to distribute this type of data because we have no formal structured way to actually do it. The second category is really about Excel as a channel in its own right. So we are already distributing our axes, as I was saying, in the fixed income space through loads of different channels. So we got fixed API. We send directly to multi-dollar platform, things like Neptune, Bloomberg, TradeWeb, and so on. But we do have demand on the client side to actually get this data directly in Excel. And as I mentioned before, reasons can be multiple. Typically, client will actually take this data in Excel and then load it into another system afterwards. So use Excel as a bridge, really. So we also, these are really the two main categories. And we have quite a few data types that we put on ipushpull. So typically things like prices, axes, in the rates, credit, and FX space would be more electronic. Things like sector axes in rates, axes in FX would be less electronic. So they will be getting through ipushpull, and not only on Excel, because we also, and I think we're going to talk about this later, but we're also doing this on Symphony through bots. So we've got a bot distribution channel. We also do it through the web UI, because we do have demand for that. So that's the two main reasons for doing it. Unstructured data that we can't easily distribute electronically, and just because of the demand on the client side to actually get the data through this particular channel.
Great, thank you, Julien. And Brad, can you tell firstly just the listeners about how TP ICAP is distributing data to clients, and then maybe touch on as well, going further than just this distribution of data, what if one of those clients wants to submit data back to you from Excel, and how does that look like with the access control and kind of regulatory view as well?
Sure. So our electronic trading offering centers on an application front end, HTML5 front end that will display the prices to the traders such that they can then put orders onto those prices in markets that are suitable. Examples of that are the interest rate options market, or indeed the inflation market, and we will be extending that to other markets over the course of the next few months and quarters for other rates desks. The data then really are the prices for the instruments. These tend to be mid-market prices, and then where we run matching sessions as well, we make we show that data up onto the front end for traders to be able to place orders on there. What we look to do with the add-in is replicate that data that's available in the front end through the API, so that people can read it in their tools, Excel being a great example, as we said, and where they're then able to read it, they can then compare it to their own prices, their own view of the market, their own positions, and be able to make a view of what orders they would like to place back onto our front end. Currently, we don't allow for the capability to send orders back to the platform. And then we're somewhat wary to be able to do so, because otherwise we will be potentially enabling the client, maybe unwittingly, to become an algo trading, have algo trading capability, and hence have a higher level of regulatory requirements on them. They might not realize that their spreadsheet suddenly becomes a really large compliance issue to satisfy the regulatory control requirements that that are needed to operate on such OTF or MTF markets. So if we were to do this, we would do it in full consultation with the clients, and indeed probably have some holdover to allow it to be human operated on our side to avoid the algo type issues that they may be facing. So first answer to your question is we display prices in order to be able to get orders back from the market levels that we're seeing from banks.
And what do you both think of this kind of integrated workflow, whereby screen space is always at a premium on any trader or salesperson's desks, because they've got only so many physical monitors, and then there's lots of stuff they're trying to squeeze onto that. One of them would be your ICAP screen, or one of the offerings from NatWest, for example. How do you think integrated workflow is important, and then being able to deliver that into Excel or something that is on that person's desktop?
Yeah, so I'll try and take this first. The workflow that the APIs give you, I think, enables you the flexibility on your own screen to decide what you want to see. You don't necessarily have to have the applications open if you've got a stream of data coming in to view it in the way in which you want to see it. So, and then the workflow around that will hopefully enable you to design something on your side to be able to give you the right response mechanism to then choose to interact with someone else's front end on their screen in front of them. So it in some ways decouples, not quite devalues, but decouples the need to be able to have the screen open on the desktop at all times, and you can choose when you wish to view it from my perspective. So look, I think that the API is needed to be able to make those trading decisions more efficient by enabling comparison more easily on the bank side, but also hopefully it doesn't mean that I'm forcing real estate upon the client. It still remains their option when they want to see it.
Yeah. And Julien, what's your perspective on that, and also on your internal setup? Because I know you spend a lot of effort and resource in building a kind of sales trader desktop where stuff does interoperate with each other, with Excel kind of being one component of that alongside a lot of other things. How important is that integrated workflow for you?
That's right. So just back, I think, to what Brad was saying. So the especially, I guess, in the fixed income space, we don't really have the single dealer platform are not really the thing anymore. So getting, grabbing space on a client's desktop is actually really, really difficult, and it's a tough ask, really. So having this sort of multiple channels, and Excel is one of them, but using APIs as well, is sort of giving you this flexibility. So client can actually decide how they want to actually access your data, where they want to display it, and what they want to do with it. So if they want the data in Excel, and they want to basically source the data for multiple dealers and actually display it in one Excel spreadsheet on one screen, they can do this with this offering. Going back to your second question, we've invested quite heavily in FDC3 and in having a smart desktop to try to make our workflow much more efficient. So we rely a lot on some of our application being context driven. So some event would push context on a desktop. Another application would react to this. So for instance, if an inquiry from a customer comes to us, the ticket might pop on the trader desktop, and we'd be pushing the instrument as a context to other applications on the desktop, and other application would then react accordingly. So maybe one of the applications will actually show you the last 20 inquiries for this particular bond, for instance. It allows you to do things that a users normally wouldn't be doing, like the inquiry workflow. You get an inquiry, you code back, you execute sometime within 5-10 seconds. There is no way a trader can actually go into a plotter and search for something while this is happening. So this sort of empowers user to get all of this data without really providing any input, and give them all this additional intelligence to help them in decision making at point of inquiry in this example.
Cool. And in terms of just going back to the external facing, when you're trying to get your data to clients, going to some of the things you just both picked up on, how does actually providing in Excel help with the speed of deployment? Because we all know, and it's as gospel, that Excel is going to be on someone's desktop, right? So then how does it help in terms of deployment and kind of speed to market when you want to get your data to someone? And also touching on, I think, what Brad was talking about on this kind of product development side, it's an easy way to test ideas and products. Yeah,
100%. So I think in terms of speed of deployment for us, I mean, we use we push our data to web as well, so through ipushpull. So it's the fastest to market, really. If somebody is happy to access the data through their web browser, we can just send a link and they will be able to see the data straight away. The next fastest, I guess, is to use Excel. So if there's any data manipulation needed and client do want this in Excel, then we do offer an Excel add-in that they can download from our Agile Market single dealer platform. So it's not zero install. There is a bit of work to do to install the add-in, but it is very lightweight, and we can usually do this really quickly. So obviously this is much quicker than getting the client to build to a fixed API, for instance, which will take weeks or months. So it is in terms of the sort of the offering you get. As Brad was saying, if you want to do any prototyping and start using the data and manipulating it, this is definitely a much faster way to do it than any of the next best option, fixed API or anything like this.
In a way, is it democratizing kind of access to data by having it in Excel? Because if I'm a small hedge fund, for example, and I want to connect to you, I might not have the in-house capability or resource to connect to Fix, like you said. But if I could use Excel as an interface, then to connect into Fix with something sitting in the middle, like some of the services that we have, does it then actually make that the tail of clients that you can service much larger and longer?
Yeah, and it's always been the idea is to be able to target a lot of clients who don't necessarily have the appetite or the budget to actually spend time and effort in coding to an API. So it's speed, it's cost, and it's quite a commitment to go for a fixed API as well. So if you're not quite sure that maybe you want to interface with a particular dealer, you sort of need to go through the process, I guess. While with having the data in Excel, it's almost like a free option. So it's really easy to try it. Anybody can do it. And if you actually decide that maybe you don't need the data, then there's no regret spent basically in this, right?
Yeah. You got anything to add to that, Brad?
Everyone likes a free option, but the optionality angle to give you the choice of how you want to handle the data is I think key. For us, our clients are large banks, so within global broking for TP ICAP. So here we find more of a problem to be able to get onto their work stack and their priority queue to be able to necessarily build a fixed connection to our own API, but it gives them the option for how they wish to proceed. They can do so in a very similar way to Julian's explained through the platform at first point, through Excel at second, and then direct to the API third. And it's at their own pace that they can choose those tools. Excel is a really small first step to that. And just to echo what Julien said, it's putting it in the hands of traders that can manage this themselves. They are all very proficient at all of the tooling within Excel. It's the first thing you're going to be coached on when you join a desk. And in fact, quite frankly, traders are now getting more proficient from a rates perspective in other analysis type tooling that they could probably quite quickly use some form of Python to be able to connect to an API and do that there as well. What Excel does is gives you that ubiquitous tool across the trading floor for it to be shared and you to learn from that lowest common denominator, as I mentioned earlier.
So it always maintains its relevance anywhere because it's ubiquitous, because it's easy to use, and actually now with other tooling that's around, you can connect Excel to all the heavyweight stuff as well.
Yes, yes, precisely. And so, I can't see a time when it will not be that first stepping stone, although maybe others will still get to the second stepping stone faster. So like it will still be the first point from my perspective, albeit I'm slightly old school.
Okay, old school to new school then. Let's move on to chat. Obviously IB chat's been around for a very, very long time, and like Excel is ubiquitous in the front office on sales and trading desk. But chat has really come onto its own kind of post-pandemic. You've got Symphony that now is being used in lots of places across the financial markets. You've got the old school Microsoft has obviously released Teams, and there's lots more going on with that. And then there's ICE and Refinitiv Messenger and Slack and lots of other things. So chat is always going to be a part of this industry because of the nature of negotiations and things that we do. But what do you both see as the future of chat workflows in this industry? I know, Julien, you love chatbots and chat, and you've invested very heavily in it. And Brad, you've got some big ideas from what you want to tackle as well. What type of projects are you both looking at the moment?
Shall I go first? So yeah, as you said, so we are heavy users of IB Chat, obviously, and Symphony. We have, as an example, we've got an execution bot in the rates and credit space that is sort of augmenting the sales client workflow. So it provides indicative prices and really assists the sales people through the execution workflow. The sort of, and we do have quite a lot of bots in Symphony. There's obviously a life cycle to sort of build bot features, release them, and that can be quite lengthy sometimes, even if Symphony is actually pretty open platform and it's pretty easy to do that in Symphony. So more recently, we've been using the ipushpull features, the bot-on-demand feature, which has allowed us to really quickly respond to client demand and internal demand from our salespeople and traders. So when somebody wants a very specific function on a bot, we don't have to go to our IT team to actually build that. A lot of it can just be set up in the web UI very easily. So somebody like myself can actually go and set this up within 5-10 minutes. So as an example, one of our clients asked us to get axes in a very specific format. So they were after a very specific set of axes, so for a specific set of countries and maturities, and they wanted this to be output in Excel on Symphony by just typing a command. Yeah, so just calling the bot and typing a 3-4 words command, and then that should give them the Excel thing. So because we've got all this data in ipushpull already, we could build this within 30 minutes, let's say. That was pretty much done. So we can be really responsive for things that are actually, might sound quite basic, but the ability to get a specific, filtered set of data in a very specific format, whether that is outputting a table in Symphony or whether it's just outputting this in an Excel spreadsheet, is actually quite powerful for us. So at the moment, we do offer this service on Symphony, and it's used quite heavily by our internal salespeople and by a few clients. A lot of our clients are on IB Chat. So ideally, what we want to do going forward is provide something very similar on IB, as and when IB start opening up a bit more to chatbots. Because that would be really looking at a user base, that would be extremely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brad, what's your thoughts on chat-based kind of projects?
So we're now in the cycle for planning next year, and indeed these are on the horizon from a rates perspective. Comes down to prioritization of what we're looking to do for the resource we have available, but more widely across TP ICAP in other assets in global broking, we're using chat to be able to make the full life cycle of order entry to trade matching to trade confirmation more efficient. And really, we start that from back to front. We start it to be able to deliver what is the end message to the client for what has traded, and just looking at the whole workflow of what an IDB or a venue executes for clients. We're always looking to make that more efficient, and so from a rates perspective, that efficiency and speed to trader is going to be key. So there is other market infrastructure that we need to get that into. They don't just want to see it in a chat; they want to receive the risk in through STP reports and other confirmation services such as MarketWire, but or indeed things like Bloomberg Beacon and such like. But look, some of the steps are to be able to make more efficient, so automate that chat rather than have people type it. And so that I see as part of the journey that rates will be going on, that other assets within TP ICAP have already gone down the route of. So yeah, it's just making the overall process more efficient.
And in terms of the kind of the overlap then between Excel and chat, so how we kind of see it from ipushpull's perspective, there's kind of workflows probably split into like 3 different buckets. One where it's Excel-based workflow with some semi-structured data, and that spreadsheet might be emailed backwards and forwards or attached to a chat. Another might be in the chat itself, where people are typing, manually typing prices, entering prices, and people responding. And then the last one where those 2 things overlap, where you might attach a spreadsheet and you type something into the chat at the same time alongside it. So one of the things that we're launching very, very soon is actually we've just integrated Symphony Chat into Excel. So you can have the chat embedded into Microsoft Excel, so it's side by side. So again, you've got that kind of integrated workflow, deploying it onto things that are already on the desk. But how do you see Excel and chat evolving together? Because I think, like we've already said, there's always a place for Excel in the short, medium, maybe long term, because of the nature of the flexibility of what you can do with it. And because you now have chat is so much more open, obviously it was led by Symphony initially, and then everyone else started following suit, including now Bloomberg, where you can start being able to push data into a chat and pull it back out again, do things with it, manipulate it, connect it into different systems and so on. Where do you see Excel and chat kind of going forward together in the future? And it might depend on different markets as well, because I think Julien touched on earlier, in some markets that are not electronified, stuff is still done on Excel. So it has to kind of live in that space. But and maybe it's a broader question of electronification in markets as well. And where does Excel and chat sit on all those journeys? And is it an on-ramp? Is it a springboard? How does that work?
So
go ahead, Julien.
I was going to say we are in terms of workflow, so we would tend to favor chats at the moment. So we all workflows would run or be facilitated on chat. We don't really do workflows in Excel today. I can see the advantage of doing this, the benefits of doing this. But it's not really something we've explored. So yeah, for us, it really is at the moment, Excel is really a way to surface our data. We don't really get anything back, so it's really a one-way thing. We push to Excel. We don't really pull back from it. Anything that is like an interaction with clients, for instance, is done through chat, so potentially through bots and other assisted tool for workflows, but yeah, not in Excel.
Yeah, so I think this does go to the point of how given even to the point given desks or different assets will electronify their product. From an IDB perspective, I sometimes wince at the term electronification because it's all around efficiency, and how we can make the process more efficient is often through making the tasks more digitally accessible. And so here I just say that I think that there's always a place for the human in the fixed income or rates market, and that actually when my fear is that you make it not too automated, but you might put too much onus on a computer making decision and might over automate it and maybe over execute in things that from a rates perspective are always executed in large size. So I think the rates market, from my perspective, will start off and the journey through electronification and see how far we can push it, but not get to that place where the execution is always a bot against bot inside a chat. It will still be sort of human managed, and the efficiencies of the outputs can be automated, but the actual decision making itself is on the whole still needed to have a lot of human guidance over it. So I'm not sure if I necessarily asked the question, but I would just say that our integration with chat over Excel will always be with the trader in mind, and to try and make their life as easy as possible. Really.
Yep, and yeah, going back to that client experience point, the trader's your client, and you want to make it easy for them. And if it's easy for them, then they might give you more business ultimately.
Yes, yeah, to a degree. That, I mean, yeah, that's right. It's a good modus operandi.
And I suppose with everything then moving towards being more API driven, it makes you're both product managers in your respective organizations, but now that things become more API driven, how much easier does that make your life?
I'll start with this time. It makes it a lot easier to be able to see what's going on. So I can tell now, not so much in a surveillance type way, but I can now monitor progress of the desks in a lot from the sanctuary of my own office, but also just to be able to rather than have to go and ask someone an opinion. It's now a lot more based on actual data rather than opinion. So I think that's the big change from my perspective as maybe as a product manager, is that now we can actually inquire with the data directly.
Anything to add to that, Julien?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're seeing more things going through APIs now. I mean, I suppose it depends on the asset class, but I would say in rates and credit, things are more and more going towards electronic platforms, whether it's people using an actual UI or using like rules-based execution engine, or some of the tools basically provided by the platform, and must be connecting their OMS through API. But yeah, generally, I don't think in the rate space we've been seeing more flows coming through actual like execution APIs. So in FX, I would say probably yes, that's true. And yeah, back to what Brad was saying, it's basically giving you more transparency over the data, that's for sure. But yeah, in rates, I don't think we're there, and I think it's just a slightly different model, I guess.
Yep. So voice and chat still dominating in that asset class. So we've touched upon Excel, we've touched upon chat, and spoken about APIs as well. So that then gets you into this omni-channel approach, whereby you can connect to ipushpull in this case, and you can distribute to all of those things plus a bunch of other stuff as well. It'd be good to understand from the audience that are listening as well, if we do another poll, as a bank or a broker or a data service or any other data producer, what's your view on building and maintaining all of these different integrations in order to make your data available to clients wherever they want it? So will you service an omni-channel distribution strategy for your digital platform or out to your clients? Are you looking to buy in and partner with companies that are out there? Are you looking to build it yourself? Are you looking to buy to build, so that'd be using like a no-code platform? Or do you not think omni-channel distribution is important and you're quite happy just to stick with the channels you're already using? And then Steve, if you can pick up the results of that.
Yeah, so just give it a couple seconds longer for people to respond. At the moment, buy and buy to build are probably the favorite responses so far. Yeah, those two. Great.
And I suppose Brad and Julien, just in terms of, you've probably both been in markets, 20 plus years like myself. How have you seen that shift between, build or from building things in-house with your own resource actually now to working with fintechs or vendors or people externally to help you deliver things? And also, how does it help now you have standards like Finos and FTC3 and people playing nicely with open source and so on? How have you seen that shift? And why did you both choose to partner with ipushpull rather than build it yourself?
So it's quite a lot to cover there, but if I kick off. So, I think there's been a general trend from my time here working in financial markets to move from build towards a more blended solution, and that then oscillates around how much you are building yourself versus you're buying. You basically make all of those decisions through your technology teams as to what's the most cost effective, but also you make those decisions quite clear as well. Sometimes it's what's the fastest to market. So to answer the last question though, so in engaging ipushpull, what we really got was that faster to market commodity that was an Excel API in this case, and then that product could be supported where it gave us what is a more cost-effective way to be able to support without needing the in-house specialists. So yeah, that that's kind of it. But you take each challenge, each problem on its own merit, and so you have to make those calls very pragmatically as how you, rather than necessarily be in one camp nor the other. But so what I'm seeing now is that blend of buy some stuff and build some stuff yourself, and it can depend upon whether that is your key strength, whether that is your own IP that you have to that you want to retain, and so you kind of have to make those judgment calls in partnership with your own technology organization.
Yeah, completely agree with Brad. Yeah, so it's for us it's very similar. So it's a good mix today, certainly. The reason we chose ipushpull, we usually look at how differentiating basically is this piece of technology. How quickly can we get it to market if we build it ourselves? How much is going to cost us to actually maintain it? So build it and maintain it, versus just having somebody dedicated to actually doing this and keeping it updated. And certainly for this sort of omni-channel approach, so making our data basically available through Excel, through APIs, through web interfaces on Symphony, we took the decision to actually go with ipushpull on this basis, because we could get a product to market really quickly. And we didn't think we could actually build it and support it for less than the license cost. On the second half of your questions, in terms of FINOS, FDC3, and how it helps, so it does help a lot to have these standards. And when you want to do a project and work with other vendors or clients, the fact that you've got such standards to leverage. So we know that on our desktop, we basically use FDC3. We know that a lot of our customers and vendors are on the same technology stack. So you can actually, when you're talking about some of our application, talking, for instance, with a UI that the client is running on the desktop for the OMS, for instance, that is now possible because everything is running on FDC3, for instance. So I think it's still there's still quite a lot of work to do there. It's definitely going in the right direction. But it's going to take a few more years to really, have this widespread and make releasing products much more efficient. Are we getting there?
Good to hear. So we'll start to wrap up and then take some questions. So this, just to kind of summarize, the omni-channel approach means you can actually cover more clients because you can cover more channels, and you can also provide the ability to share data in the applications, depending even on what the technical ability is of the client, all the way through to what the maturity is of the particular market. So the omni-channel approach is always like an evolving goal, because it's always going to new things are going to be added to it as time goes on. But Excel is actually the easy point of entry for all the stuff we just discussed, around it being very easy to deploy. It's quick and fast to market. It's on a trader's desktop. People know how to use it. But having an access controlled, kind of audited permission environment to use Excel is really useful. And actually Excel becoming an interface, so it's super lightweight, and it can, that through Excel connecting to something like our service, it can actually connect into a particular dealer screen or a particular fix engine or whatever it might be, and you've got that one connection. And also gives you the on-ramp starting from Excel a lot of the time, the on-ramp into chat APIs, being FTC3 compliant, having extension apps in Symphony, having something connecting into Bloomberg. So everyone does always want to improve their client's experience, and it can be done in a variety of ways, and ultimately helping to make processes more efficient. I was going to finish off, and unless you can sum up in 30 seconds, both of you, in terms of improving client experience, this before we move to Q&A, in terms of improving client experience, what keeps you up at night? What are you thinking about, and what keeps you up at night that you think there's something that can always be a little bit better?
So for me, just going back to what we were talking about before, Eddie, it's us having the right offering. So being able to deliver a product through as many channels as we can. So when clients come and engage with us and want to deal with us in a certain channel, we're there. We can actually meet them on this channel. So this is really what we're investing on now. It's reaching out to more clients with more products through more channels.
Great. Brad?
Yeah, so for me at the moment, it really is making sure that all the foundational layers to what we're doing are right. So it's less about actually what's being exposed to the client at the front end. It's more about making sure that the robustness of the venue that we're operating is robust, stable, and able to be supported for the client and ourselves in the long term. But as it happens, I sleep very well, so I don't get up halfway through the night.
Well, that's always good to hear. Okay, well, Brad, Julien, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insights today. So to wrap up, we've got a few minutes left for any questions. Steve, are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, conscious we've only got a couple of minutes left. So there's probably one question that probably would nicely finish off what both Julien and Brad were just saying, which is around how does delivering live data to your clients give you competitive advantage, or does it give you competitive advantage?
Yeah, so from a TP ICAP perspective, it does give us a competitive advantage such that they can see our prices and be able to act upon them. And with specific reference to Excel, we can do it in an environment where they can compare to their own prices. And it's that comparison of market levels that enable someone to make a decision to act upon it that I think is what trading is all about from our perspective, to help banks manage their risk. So yes, it's allowing people to see our prices it's vital, and this is a channel to enable that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, so real-time data in Excel, is it giving us competitive advantage? Yes. So just again, going back to the example of Axis. So for client consuming this through an API on platform, they can see this in real time. For clients who want to see this in Excel, typically how it used to work and how it works is you would receive a spreadsheet from one of your salesperson. Obviously, when you open the spreadsheet, the axes are already stale. They're not updating. If we use, ipushpull in this example, we can actually stream our axes directly into Excel. So when you look at your spreadsheet, you know that the axe data you see in there is actually up to date. So if you then go and reach out to a salesperson about a particular axe, you know it's not going to be stale, and you will be able to execute on that. So yeah, definitely competitive advantage for us.
Great, thanks guys. We're coming up to 10 of the hour now, so we'll wrap up. But thanks again for everyone that's listening. Thanks for sticking around for the whole session. I hope you learned something new. Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Julien. And if you want to learn more about Excel, there's an ebook which you can access inside this platform. You can also get it from the website. And if you've got any questions for Brad or Julien, I'm sure they'll be happy for you to reach out. And also, if you want to learn more about ipushpull and how you can deliver live data in some of these channels, then do give us a shout.